July 4th, 1776, one of the most important days in American history, the day the colonies declared their freedom. But the declaration came in the middle of a war already underway. It wasn't won easily. Even after that day, the fighting continued for years, and more than once the Revolutionary War was nearly lost. But what if a Navy SEAL team were sent by the United States back in time to ensure and speed up victory? Could Navy SEALs serving with George Washington alter the course of American history? This time, we won't pick a specific date to drop them in. Instead, we'll look at how a Navy SEAL team could be used most efficiently to ensure George Washington's victory. Let's start with what sparked the Revolutionary War. Like most conflicts, money was a big part of it. After the French and Indian War, Britain took control of much of New France in North America. The French and their baguette and croissant were kicked out. So Britain owned a lot more land, but also a lot more debt. Keeping forts and soldiers on that land was expensive. The British tried to stop settlers from pushing west and asked the colonies to help pay for defense. Parliament then passed new taxes and trade rules: the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, the Tea Act. Colonists said, no taxation without representation, which led to protests and boycotts spreading everywhere. Protests escalated, culminating in the Boston Tea Party, when colonists dumped 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor, worth about $1.7 million in today's dollars. Britain answered with tough new laws and more troops. Trust broke down. By April 1775, fighting had already started at Lexington and Concord. The Second Continental Congress met and put George Washington in charge of a new Continental Army. In July 1776, Congress explained the break in writing, the Declaration of Independence. Basically, the message was, we have the right to govern ourselves. Now that you have the context of the Revolutionary War, let's get back to our Navy SEALs. U.S. Navy SEALs are widely seen as among the world's most capable special operators. During the Cold War and after, they were often compared with their Soviet and later Russian Spetsnaz counterparts. Estimates vary, but training a typical U.S. soldier is often cited at about $36,000. By contrast, taking a Navy SEAL from candidate to operator can cost up to $2 million, with annual sustainment sometimes estimated near $1 million per operator. That makes SEALs among the most expensive troops in the world, and to be fair, you're getting quite a bit of bang for your buck. SEALs are typically organized into platoons of about 16 operators, further divided into smaller squads. On that basis, the Continental Forces would get a 4-person squad, highly trained and equipped with modern gear. This would include night vision and thermal gear, satellite communications equipment, emergency medical kits, and various odds and ends tailored to the specific mission. Since the only satellites in the sky then would be UFOs, that kit would be useless. But our SEALs would still gain real value from standard long-range communications gear. All that night vision and heat-sensing gear uses a lot of power, so spare batteries are a top priority, plus a small solar charger to refill them. With modern portable solar kits used by Special Ops, our SEALs could keep their gear working for a long time. On one side, we have our 4 Navy SEALs alongside the colonists, French and Spanish forces, and local volunteers. On the other, King George's well-equipped army, loyalists, and, surprisingly, some Native Americans after Britain promised them that, for sure, trust me bro, the Crown would totally protect their land later. SEALs are best used for direct action raids on high-value targets. The British struggled with guerrilla tactics and the rough, unfamiliar terrain. In the 1770s, there were few big cities. Much of America was forest and fields. The British were often forced to move troops through thick wilderness to reach their objectives, making it perfect terrain for our U.S. soldiers to operate in. Even 4 SEALs could hit way above their weight. With 416 carbines, one with a 40mm launcher and Mk-48 machine guns, they'd carry as much firepower as a good chunk of any British unit they meet. They could shoot from far beyond musket range and break a column fast. A short ambush, 2 Mk-48s pouring fire, while the others launch 40mm grenades, would tear through a marching force. Then the team would fade back into the woods before a counterattack could form. Then there's the option to eliminate key targets at long range. A SEAL sniper with a Macmillan TAC 338 can engage from over 1,600 meters. Then, if the U.S. wanted to troll a little bit, They could even send a M82.5 zero-caliber anti-materiel rifle with the 4 Navy SEALs. Even if there is literally no target that requires a 50-caliber sniper rifle, watching British officers drop with shattered chests and heads from more than a mile away would be profoundly terrifying and demoralizing to enemy troops across the line. With this sniper, they could easily eliminate high-ranking British officers, which would greatly destabilize enemy units and potentially alter the course of the war. Watching SEALs spring ambushes with machine guns and grenade launchers would be thrilling, but it still isn't the smartest way to use them. A better play is stealth. Our time-hopping team could deliver far bigger results by avoiding firefights altogether, sneaking in, sabotaging key targets, and slipping out without ever pulling a trigger. One of the biggest problems for the revolution was Britain's blockade of American ports. It choked the economy, which was already struggling to pay for an expensive war, and it kept vital French and Spanish supplies from getting through or forced them onto long, roundabout routes. Those delays and losses often left Patriot forces short on guns, powder, and everything else they needed, leaving them poorly equipped and outnumbered by British troops. Like their animal cousins, SEALs loves water, and sinking high-value big ship is frankly a wet dream for them. After all, blowing obstacles up underwater is their first skill. With limpet mines, other charges, and small swimmer scooters, the team could slip out to British ships at anchor, unseen, stick explosives on the hulls, set timers, and leave without a trace before anyone even knew they were. Then they'd head back to shore and watch the show from afar. More than killing enemy leaders or shredding redcoats with modern machine guns, sinking high-value warships would deliver a decisive strike against Britain's war effort, costing sailors and morale in a brutal move. Once France entered the war in 1778, the Royal Navy faced a strategic crunch. It could no longer mass its fleets against North America alone. French squadrons were already tearing into key British trade routes in the Caribbean. The capitulation of Lord Charles Cornwallis at Yorktown in October 1781 is widely regarded as the decisive turning point, the blow that effectively ended Britain's campaign to crush the rebellion and retain the colonies. Our SEALs could hasten that inevitable end by targeting British warships earlier in the war and systematically sinking them one by one. The only time British ships are safe is when they're at sea and moving, but they can't stay away for long because they have to come back to resupply. That's the right time for our soldiers to strike again. Sinking several capital or escort vessels would be a brutal military and economic shock to Britain's sea empire. It would also reopen Patriot harbors to friendly traffic. More important, it would draw France into the fight earlier and in greater strength, making the rebellion stronger while cutting Britain's reach. In the end, our 4 soldiers didn't need to win the whole war, just hit the weakest points.